Hey everyone, welcome to Vegas Showbiz. We are Jessica and Michael Pellegrini. For this video, we're excited to be doing another Las Vegas restaurant review. We recently had the pleasure of dining at Retro, which is a new restaurant located at Mandalay Bay. It's a joint venture from the fabulous chef brothers Michael and Brian Voltaggio from Top Chef. We're big fans of these guys from the show. We hardly ever miss an episode of Top Chef. It was our first time actually dining at one of their restaurants, so that was very exciting for us. We were with three of our best friends celebrating a special occasion, so it definitely made for a memorable meal. Now, as you've already started to tell, I had my camera out from the moment we arrived. I wanted to capture as much of that cool 80s retro vibe as possible. I was also able to get a photo of literally every dish that landed on our table that evening, so you're gonna see and hear about everything. We've got a lot of good stuff to get into, but before we do, just one small favor to ask of you. If you're enjoying our content or getting value from our content, please show your support by subscribing to the Vegas Showbiz YouTube channel. We're trying to grow the channel, and your support via subscription really does go a long way. So with that said, before we get into the individual dishes, we're gonna talk about general impressions, atmosphere, all that stuff. For that, I give you Jessica Pellegrini.
All right. Well, Retro is packed with nostalgia.
Yeah.
Super fun from the moment you walk in. You do enter at the casino level and then go down for the restaurant. So as you're walking down, there's this really cool column filled with all sorts of fun things from the 80s and the 90s.
Right.
Everything from rollerblades to
There were guitars.
VHS tapes.
Yeah.
Magic 8 balls.
Yeah, all
it
that
was
stuff.
really, really fun. We took quite some time walking through the restaurant before we actually made it to our table because there's a lot of things you can touch. There's a lot of things you can interact with. We did.
We're children of the 80s, so this was totally nostalgic for us to see all this stuff. So yeah, we took our time going down. If you've dined at Mandalay Bay before, if you ever went to Ariole, the wine tower where they had the angels going up and down to grab the bottles of wine, that's what this tower has now become. And we should probably mention right away that this is not a permanent fixture. It's there, it's a residency, but it's a 1-year residency, so you're definitely gonna have some time. I think it's been open for about 2 or 3 months at this point.
It opened on May 3rd.
Okay.
And it's supposed to be there for a year.
Of 23, May 3rd of 23, yeah. So you got time.
You do. And we really recommend it. I mean, so we finally get to our table, and even the table is retro. The plates look like paper plates,
Right.
which I love.
They're like real china, but they're paper plates.
Super funny.
Vibrant colors,
very vibrant colors, and all over the walls are old album covers from the 80s and 90s. Yeah. And I don't know how many times someone in our party said, "Oh my gosh, I forgot about those."
Yeah, or I used to have that, or
it
stuff
was
like,
really
There's
fun.
like a massive life-size Game Boy, and like all kinds of cool stuff.
Really cool. And then the fare is retro as well, all the way from the appetizers to the drinks.
Sure.
So we had jungle juice.
Well, let's start off for a
which
second
was
here. Let's look at it.
Ton of fun. Comes out in a crystal punch bowl.
Right.
And they have it on the menu for 3 to 4 people. We had a party of 5. That was fine to share.
We just had a few, that's all.
We did. And that was a passion fruit flavored jungle juice with rum, cognac, gin, orange juice, lime, passion fruit, honey, and orgeat.
Yes.
Super, super tasty. And I will say it was strong.
It was strong. I didn't do any drinking in the 80s, but I have a feeling that they didn't make them like this back then. I mean, this was definitely like a cool modern take. We've been bartenders and servers at nice restaurants, and we appreciated the craftsmanship of this drink, and the presentation, as you're seeing, was really cool. All the straws, the floating fruit, it just fit the vibe with the color and everything. It was fun.
I was gonna say, and it was really fun. It really was fun to have this cool punch bowl in the middle of the table, and we would all take drinks at the same time.
Right.
Not something that you can even have the option to do in a lot of places.
No, not at all.
So that was cool. Then we started off with some appetizers. So pepperoni rolls were at the table. They look a lot like cinnamon rolls.
I know, that's what I thought.
Which was really kind of funny. It looks like a rolled up cinnamon roll with frosting on top.
Right, but it's actually a pepperoni brioche with marinara, mozzarella, fennel pollen, and espelette and stracciatella. So all kinds of good Italian stuff in there.
And we did not partake in those, but the rest of our party did. and they liked him.
They enjoyed him, yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
they liked him a lot. Michael and I shared the avocado toast. So that was like a deconstructed avocado toast. It looked like half of an avocado with a balsamic yolk in the center.
Yeah, it was like a jelly or a yolk in the center of it there.
Herbs and I think flower petals on top, and then your toast on the side.
Right.
My personal thoughts on this dish, it tasted good, but it's the one thing we had that night that I wasn't like, wow. It was just okay.
It was fine. You know, I mean, I think that the presentation of it was probably my favorite part. I don't know that I would order it again, but I was glad to see it in front of me and taste this deconstructed modern version of that dish. But it wasn't my, you know, there were just other things that were more excellent, frankly, and so it doesn't really stand out in that sense.
Right.
I do think it's a newer addition to the menu because I was doing some research for this video, looking up their menu, and everything that I found, it doesn't even include this, so I think they must have just added it.
Same with the next appetizer that we had, which was the pimento cheese.
Yes.
That came with like some crudité and
Vegetable
some
crudité.
pork rinds. It was really creamy. I honestly can't say that I ever had pimento cheese back in the 80s, 90s. I've certainly had it in my life, but I don't remember that from childhood. It was good. It was interesting. Pimento cheese has a texture to it that's unusual. I liked it. I did like it.
Yeah, we didn't do the pork rinds, but I was definitely into the variety of vegetable crudité and dipping that in the cheese. I thought it was tasty. I mean,
it was.
It was fun. It was, as you're seeing, it's colorful, it's vibrant. You know, there's a lot of texture going on. It's geometric. You know.
And that was another one that I just kept thinking. Most places aren't going to offer anything like this.
No,
I liked that.
One thing that I think I'll call out before we even continue going is that this place has a cool vibe to it, but not cool in like the typical like too cool for school Vegas clubby, you know, like what's that place, Beauty and Essex, that was totally not our speed at all. This is cool, like if Ready Player One had a restaurant, this is the restaurant, you know. And again, we were kids in the 80s, so it takes us back, but if you're into that vibe, this is probably gonna suit your taste a lot.
Right. And honestly, plenty of people that were dining there that I'm certain were not alive in the 80s, and they were having a good time.
For sure. I mean, it's come back in popularity.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
All right. So next one, Caprese.
So then Michael and I shared the Caprese Salad. That one was a mozzarella ball wrapped with, I think they calls it Ovaltine, depending. Ovaltine.
Mozzarella
sorry.
Ovaltine.
Ovaltine also from the
Ovaltine
80s and 90s.
Not the right fit.
Ovaltine, pretending to be a tomato.
Yeah.
It was really interesting. You know, tomatoes are such a big part of a caprese salad.
Obviously.
And so when the mozzarella comes out and it just has this like tomato jelly encasing it, I was like, that's not going to fulfill the tomatoes.
Right.
And it did. It really did. It had tons of flavor in there. Very unique. It came with bread again that had a little bit of tomato on top of that.
Yeah, they call that pan con tomate, so bread with tomatoes.
Right. A simple dish, but I mean, if you're a caprese fan, which we both really are, I thought their take on it was awesome.
I loved it. I mean, I've had hundreds of caprese salads in my life, and when it first came to the table, I'm like, well, that certainly looks different than anyone I've ever had. But then the flavor, I mean, just popped. It was bursting with flavor. I loved that balsamic drizzle, and the little, there was like a green oil with it.
A basil, yeah.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. And it just, I mean, just bursting with flavor. Loved how they faked the tomato with the mozzarella. It was just really unique and cool, delicious. You know, we were kind of waffling back and forth between the Caesar or the Caprese, and just decided that the Caprese sounded a little bit more interesting, even though we've had both a million times.
Right.
Totally loved it. Highly recommend it. You know, it was definitely one of the highlights for my meal.
So the other people in our party shared the chicken pot pie croquettes.
Right.
Those were like a buttery cracker crust with black truffle coulis and gold foil on top. We were all like, is that gold leaf?
Yeah, I was like,
it
what?
was, yeah. Now, again, we did not try these, but the rest of our party enjoyed them.
Well, but this was the one dish where there was a little bit of an issue, right? Because it came out and they were actually cold the first time. And when the server checked in, my buddy was like, yeah, I mean, are they supposed to be cold? And he said, no, they're not. And so they ended up bringing out a new order, and the manager came to check on us and everything.
Honestly, it was like such a small thing, and they took care of it beautifully.
Yeah, it was fine.
Not a big
Things
deal.
happen like that. Again, we didn't taste it, but I was impressed by the presentation. I loved that gold, and just, I don't know, it just looked really cool. So, and they once they brought out the the new version that was served warm, everybody enjoyed it and ate all of it.
Right, I was going to say they didn't last long once they made it to the table the second time.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, it seemed like it was fine.
All right, why don't you take our entree?
Yeah, so for an entree, we decided to share the lobster thermidor. Neither of us have ever had that dish. We've heard of it, of course, and we've certainly had lobster and crab and things like that before, but we'd never had lobster thermidor. This one was served with blue crab, kohlrabi, which I'm not exactly sure what that is, but kohlrabi was on the menu, a lobster jus, and lobster pancakes.
Those were really interesting.
Yeah, it was like you could make a taco out of a lobster pancake.
Yeah, so it came out in two separate, there's like the main portion of the entree, and then the lobster pancake came on the side, and we were sort of like, what do we do with these?
Right.
And then I think it was the manager was chatting us up at the time. She said, oh, make it into a taco. And I was like,
just roll it up.
Got you.
Yeah.
And it was delicious.
Yeah, I mean, and we were done with those pancakes, but there was still food on the dish left over that we continued. I mean, we cleaned that plate. Like, I really enjoyed it. Again, I don't have the traditional dish in mind to compare it to, but I trust that they, did a cool modern version of it, and again, it was delicious.
The side that we had to go with that, so we shared an entree and a side, was the broccoli béarnaise.
Amazing.
Oh my goodness.
Oh my gosh.
We've had sides of broccoli so many times in our life.
Sure.
This was without a doubt the best side of broccoli I have ever had.
I agree.
I want to have it like every day.
Unbelievable. Yeah. So the menu description is young broccoli with a broccoli salsa verde and a Greek yogurt. So the salsa verde, as you're seeing in the picture, was underneath it, and then that drizzle of Greek yogurt. I'm all about interesting pairings. I would have never thought to drizzle Greek yogurt over broccoli.
No, it was so good.
My goodness.
It was so good.
And a couple other people at the table tried it as well, and all mutually agreed. They're like, well, that's the best broccoli I've ever had. Straight up.
Did not know broccoli could be that good.
Yeah, and I love broccoli too, and I was still blown away by it.
Same.
Outstanding. Highly recommend that if you go.
Right. So the rest of our party shared the chicken and dumplings entree. It looked beautiful. The dumplings were pillowy on top. There was a nice cheese crust on the top.
Yeah.
It's a nudie, crispy chicken thighs, lemon chicken jus, and snap peas.
Yeah.
It looked really great.
Yeah,
it came out in an old casserole dish, which was just hilarious. And again, I don't think there was anything left in that plate. On that plate when it was done.
The jus also so light and flavorful. I mean, everybody killed that. It was very popular. All right, next up. So our buddy had the hanger steak frites. This was not something that we had. He had it on his own, but the menu description there is prime hanger steak with béarnaise pudding and potato chips.
Potato chips.
I know those
so
potato
big.
chips are. I've never seen anything quite like this. And the photo actually isn't how it was served. The steak was actually under these two massive potato chips. They were almost like a ramp going over the top. And at first I was like, what am I even taking a photo of? But then he kind of opened it up, put the chips to the side, and you could see the rest of the dish. He loved his food. I mean, cleaned that plate, but it was also just such an interesting presentation.
It was cooked beautifully, we could tell. And yeah, I mean, our buddy has had several steaks, and he was very impressed.
Oh,
he was very happy with that.
Yeah, I mean, nothing went home.
No, hanger steaks are known to have a lot of flavor to them.
Sure.
So.
Yeah, and perfectly cooked, because sometimes those, they're a little bit on the thinner side. It's easy to overdo something like that, and he was extremely happy with how it came out.
Right. So we did have two desserts. The first dessert was the chocolate lava cake, and it's a lava cake with molten hazelnut and praline. It was a pretty classic, honestly. This one wasn't too terribly different than most lava cakes.
Yeah, I felt like I've had this before. Not that it was bad.
No,
but
it was great. It was one, I think really the only dish that I was like, I've seen this one.
Yeah. I mean, this was pretty much just the standard take on that dish. I've had it before. And again, I mean, it certainly got eaten. It's not like we were turning our nose up to anything.
No.
It just, whereas almost every other dish felt like this brand new interpretation of something, this one didn't necessarily have that feel to it. It was just a good chocolate cake with a oozy hazelnut.
The next dessert, though, honestly, was interesting.
Crazy.
This was like an ode to Dippin' Dots, I felt.
Okay.
And Dippin' Dots are totally from that era, so I'm sure that was not by accident. It was cookies and cream. So it's frozen cookie butter and creme fraiche rocks
Right.
piled high on a bed of chocolate ganache pudding.
Yeah.
And this was a big dessert, I should add too. Like,
yeah.
I was surprised. If I had ordered that by myself, I would have been like,
oh my gosh,
whoa, why didn't you give me warning that this was so big?
Yeah, that's a good point, because the last one, the lava cake, you could have had alone and it would have been perfectly suitable.
Totally. But
This would be
one,
overkill.
Oh, way too much. Like, that's a 2-person or more.
At least, yeah. And we were all just kind of digging a spoon in there. And
right.
What a fun way to finish that meal, though. I mean, it was delicious and such an interesting presentation.
And they had greens on top of it,
I know,
too, which
I know.
you don't normally
like
see
microgreens
with
on a dessert.
But I made sure to try a bite with the greens. It was good.
Yeah, it just adds a little pop.
It was really good. And again, very much like Dippin' Dots.
Okay, I didn't think of that. You know what it reminded me of, honestly, was like a modern take on an Oreo Blizzard from Dairy Queen.
Yeah, of course.
But yeah, I mean, I see what you mean. Same idea. And again, just that retro vibe, just totally reinvented. You know, classic flavor that you, in a presentation and a package that you haven't quite seen before. So it was fun.
We had a great time. It was a really fun place. The Voltaggio brothers have done a really great job with the menu.
Yeah.
Everything from start to finish.
I wish we could have met them. We were hoping that they
know.
might be there, and they often are, but not that night. Oh, we almost forgot.
Oh gosh, that's right.
When they brought the check, I got to show this as well.
When they bring the check, you get like this little goodie bag.
Yeah.
And it's got like candy cigarettes in it, Zots candy bracelet.
Yeah.
It was hilarious. We were all like
it was a
chomping
nice
on our
touch.
candy cigarettes.
Yeah, I was like, do these make the smoke too? I remember those. Like,
it was funny. It was a great way to end it because, again, they just kind of let you walk out with that nostalgia in your pocket. It was awesome.
just a nice touch. You know, there were so many touches like that. You know, even when we were leaving the restaurant and we were taking the elevator back up to the main floor, and they had like an old school payphone in there. You know,
yeah.
they just left no stone unturned in this retro vibe. You know? I loved it. So
it was a great place. We highly recommend, and I'm sure we'll check it out again before they're done.
Yeah, I mean, I would go back because there are enough things on the menu that I'd be willing to try again. I've already, you know, seen that they're changing the menu, that it's not just going to be the same thing for an entire year. It's a fun atmosphere. I think a lot of people from different generations would get a kick out of it, not just our own. But it definitely struck a chord with us.
One more thing to add is that as far as Vegas restaurants go, this one was more casual. Mm-hmm. And I think that's important to say with any resort restaurant because sometimes you just don't know beforehand. This one, you're obviously always fine to go dining in Vegas in, you know, fancy attire, but not necessary at this place.
You want to wear your Vans or your Chucks or whatever.
Totally.
And some
if you
jeans.
get your old 80s band tee, I mean, we saw a whole
your hypercolor shirt.
Yes,
you know?
bring it out.
You should wear that. Like, it'll be a hit.
That was one thing I don't remember seeing
I didn't see that, but I used to love
those. They need to add a
those.
hypercolor.
Yeah, those are cool. But yeah, it's a good point because plenty of the places that we go to, Vegas tends to dress up a little bit more just in general, and you're never out of place when dressed up, and you could pull it off, like you said.
Of course.
But it's not a requirement by any means. So it's a good call out.
All right, wear your stonewashed and your hypercolor.
That's right. You'll fit right in. You'll never want to leave.
Nope.
All right. Well, I guess that's all we've got for you in this one. We hope you enjoyed it. Again, if so, please show your support by subscribing to the channel. We appreciate you being here and look forward to seeing you in the next video.
Bye.
Thank you.